Would you shut up for like 10 seconds? I'm getting mad at strangers on the internet. Right now I'm in a heated debate over which of the 50 Shades of Grey is best. This fool thinks he can convince me medium gray is the best? But come on, he's got nothing against charcoal gray. Let me just tell him what a stupid idiot baby he is and... Oh. He deleted his Twitter. Mission accomplished!
What do you do when you play video games and you come across someone with a different opinion from your own? Do you agree to disagree and move on?
Of course not.
Nah, you start a full-on war against this person and anyone else who shares their opinions, and you don't back down. You fight to the last man so that you may both truly know whose opinion is correct. And when it's all said and done, you step out onto the ruined, bloody battlefield and you ask yourself, was all this worth it just to prove a point?
Absolutely. As long as opinions have existed, there will always be someone to start an argument about them, because how dare someone disagree with them? But in the context of video games, it's the exact same thing. Like a game I don't like? Bam, get lost. Think a game looks interesting that I think looks underwhelming? Boom, absolutely destroyed. But the main argument you can always count on seeing somewhere is the best place to play video games.
Alright, quick history lesson. 1972 gives us the very first home console ever, the Magnavox Odyssey. It had no competition and was also the simplest thing on the planet. So, 5 years later, Atari gives us the 2600, which was just so much better, I swear. It faces a little bit of competition, but it is still widely considered to be the only way to play video games. And then the video game market crashes into the side of a mountain and suddenly nobody cares anymore. Then BAM! 1986, and Nintendo shoves this brick of a console down our throats. The Nintendo Entertainment System. But there still isn't any real competition. No arguments to be made. That is until 1989 and... Dear God, it's starting. Suddenly children are at each other's throats over which is better, Nintendo's new Super Nintendo Entertainment System or Sega's Genesis. And things do not calm down. More and more challengers start to enter the ring, but then all of a sudden, something incredible and horrifying happens. Personal computers, or PCs for short, start to gain some traction. There's this hip new thing called an internet, and video games are starting to get released exclusively for PCs. Doom and Wolfenstein, just to name a couple. Eventually, some of these games would get ported to home consoles, but PCs were way faster, had way better graphics, and had online play. However, they really weren't mainstream enough to take over for consoles. Yet. Eventually, it's unclear as to exactly when, building a PC from scratch starts to become pretty popular among gamers. Now you can go out and buy the parts you want and make your PC as powerful as you want it. Suddenly, only the most hardcore of gamers are going out and spending thousands of dollars to build the most powerful gaming machine ever created.
And that's pretty much where we're at now. Consoles are still being made, and PCs are being seen as a more serious way to play video games. But this is a war. Console players and PC players are at a constant back and forth with each other over which is the superior way to play video games. So it's time to settle this once and for all. Let's run through a list of bullet points and see how each side stacks up in each category. And you can count on me to be as unbiased as possible. Especially since I don't actually own a PC. Yep. Absolutely no bias here whatsoever.
When it comes to pure raw processing power, it actually depends. Since you can customize your PC to be however beefy or pathetic you want it to be, it really doesn't make sense to compare them to consoles like this. I'll say this, generally when a new console comes out, it's roughly at the same level as the higher-end PCs out there. Unfortunately for consoles, new PC parts keep coming out over a console's lifespan, which means you can go out and buy the latest graphics chip for how much? And just plug that into your PC for an upgrade. Meanwhile, consoles are still stuck at the same power level they were at when they released. I mean, companies might release a revision that's slightly more powerful, but it's not really enough to keep up with PCs. At least until the next generation, in which case the cycle will start again. When your PC breaks, you can find replacement parts and throw them back in your gaming brick to make it good as new. There are only a few cases where you'd have to start from square one again. When your console breaks, though, you're left with two options. One, you send it back to the company and get them to try and fix it for you. Two, you can throw it out, suck it up, and buy a new one. Generally, though, you're not going to have problems like that with your console.
Most of the time!
The risk you face when building a PC is that if you don't know what you're doing, you risk ruining things and breaking everything.
Now you could go out and buy a pre-built PC, that is a thing, but come on. Half the fun of owning a PC is that you get to make it yourself. You get to play on this thing that you made that's also potentially a fire hazard because you forgot to hook up a wire somewhere.
I'll give the point to consoles, but just know that it's pretty close. How you control your video game is incredibly important. I mean, you could play with this, or you could play with this.
What am I supposed to do with this?
The main reason people buy PCs in the first place is to have better controls for shooters. With mouse and keyboard controls, you have way more precise aiming, just being able to point and click where you want to shoot. Or at least that's what I've heard. I wouldn't know, I don't have an actual PC. I'm not good at shooters either. With consoles, you obviously have the controller, which has been perfected over the last 20 years or so to work well enough for any game genre. Controllers are pretty versatile. They're simple enough to understand while being complex enough to handle most things developers want to make. However, you can actually use either of these control schemes on either system. You can hook a controller up to your PC, or you can connect a mouse and keyboard to your console, so you can really play however you want on whatever you want. However, some console games don't support keyboard or mouse controls. On the other hand, most PC games do support controllers, so... Oh, this is absolutely an easy point for consoles. Exclusives can absolutely make or break a game system, so it's important to have a lot of high-quality games that can only be played in one place.
Of course, what's good or high quality is completely subjective. So if we're just judging by the amount of exclusives on either side, then consoles absolutely take the cake. Well, we seem to have reached a bit of a stalemate. This is a stupid argument. Why would you ever compare these? Comparing consoles to PCs might be the dumbest argument ever. These aren't even in the same wheelhouse. PCs can do anything. Some people just choose to use them exclusively for video games. Consoles, on the other hand, are made with the sole intention of playing video games. These two things are not in the same category. I could go out and buy a PC and not play a single video game on it, and I would still be able to use it for its main purpose. On the other hand, if I go out and buy a console and never play a single video game on it, then why did I even buy a console to begin with? You can't compare these two, so stop trying to say one is better than the other. Even if there were some way you could legitimately compare these, would it even matter? I'm just saying, as long as you have a good time with the thing that you bought, does it even matter how it compares to something else? No! What matters is that opinions are just that. Opinions! They vary from person to person, which is absolutely fine. You have to stop getting mad at someone every time they slightly disagree with you, because everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Just respectfully disagree with them and move on with your day. Wait. Dark gray? Well. Time to ruin another fool's day.